Admiral James Walker stood motionless in his cloaked observation post, his weathered face illuminated by the ethereal glow of the Trilateral Council's chamber. Through quantum sensors that even the most advanced alien civilizations couldn't detect, he watched the gathering of the galaxy's supposed finest minds. The crystalline chamber, carved from a single asteroid, sparkled with bioluminescent light that danced across the scaled and tentacled forms of 100 different species. Let us proceed to classification case 147. Sol System, third planet, announced High Counselor Zexthrax, their phosphorescent tendrils rippling with what Walker recognized as barely concealed disdain. The primitive species calls itself human. A holographic representation of Earth materialized in the chamber center. Walker allowed himself a small smile as the carefully crafted illusion played out before the council. Smoke-belching factories, crude petroleum refineries, and primitive combustion vehicles crawling across the planet's surface like ants. Observed their primary energy source, sneered Representative Yalax from the Andromeda delegation, pointing a chidnous appendage at the hologram. Hydrocarbons burned in oxygen, practically Stone Age technology. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Walker's hand tightened almost imperceptibly on the quantum recorder, documenting every moment of their arrogant display. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, the vast antimatter reactor complex continued its silent operation, masked by technological camouflage that made it appear as nothing more than thermal vents to alien sensors. Their attempts at space travel are particularly amusing, added Counselor Merrick's, her crystalline form refracting light, as she gestured to images of the International Space Station. They celebrate reaching their own moon as if it were a magnificent achievement. None of them noticed the quantum-shifted plates in the station's hull that concealed advanced sensors monitoring all three galaxies' communications. The same sensors that were, at this very moment, feeding every word of their deliberations directly to Earth's strategic command. I propose classification as a Class D primitive species, Zexthrax announced. They require protection from exploitation until they advance beyond their fossil fuel dependency. All in favor. The chamber erupted in a chorus of agreements. Walker watched as tentacles, appendages, and energy formations signaled their approval. Below the council chamber, hidden in subspace, the massive quantum computers of the Terran Defense Force added each voter to their database, mapping out the political structure of three galaxies. A curious biological note, interjected Dr. Vex, the council's chief xenobiologist. These humans show remarkable adaptability to environmental stress. Their endurance and regenerative capabilities are unusual, irrelevant. Dismiss Yelax. They barely understand their own genetic code. The species shows no signs of developing genetic engineering within the next 1,000 years. Walker suppressed a chuckle, thinking of the classified medical facilities beneath Mount McKinley, where human scientists had perfected cellular regeneration decades ago. The breakthrough remained hidden, released to the public in small, accidental discoveries that maintained humanity's carefully crafted image of slow technological progress. The motion carries, declared Zexthrax. Earth is now under protected observation status. No direct contact is permitted. Their development will be monitored annually for signs of advancement. As the council moved on to their next case, Walker activated his quantum communicator, undetectable to even the most advanced alien scanning systems. Eagle's Nest, this is Watchman. Classification is confirmed. They took the bait. Proceeding with Phase 2. Acknowledged Watchman, came the encrypted response from Earth's Strategic Command. The Andromeda Mining Corporation's probe is on schedule. Estimated incursion in 15 standard days. Walker took one last look at the council chamber, at the beings who thought themselves the masters of three galaxies. They had no idea that their newest primitive protection project had already mapped every hyperlane in their territory, had quantum listening posts in every major system, and maintained a fleet of ships that could cross their galaxies in days instead of weeks. Remind our friends in the mining corporation to be punctual. Walker transmitted as his quantum shift drive spooled up. "Humanity has waited long enough to make our entrance. Let's give them a show they'll never forget." The observation post vanished, leaving no trace of its existence. In the chamber, the council continued their deliberations, unaware that their newest protected species was about to rewrite the balance of power across 3 galaxies. Lieutenant Emily Blackwood stood at the viewport of the U.S. Hartford, watching Pluto's icy surface glisten in the distant starlight. To any alien sensors, her ship appeared to be a rickety research vessel, held together by primitive welding and outdated solar panels. The perfect bait. "Contact approaching through the Kuiper Belt," reported Commander Jack Reynolds, his fingers dancing across what looked like crude radar equipment, but was actually a quantum detection array. Andromeda Mining Corporation flagship, crystalline-class harvester. Right on schedule. Emily allowed herself a small smile. "How many support vessels?" 5 drill ships, 3 guard cutters. They're not even trying to hide their approach." Jack shook his head. "Guess when you think you're dealing with primitives, stealth isn't a priority." The massive harvester ship emerged from the darkness, its crystalline structure refracting the dim sunlight. Mining drills the size of skyscrapers extended from its hull, designed to tear apart dwarf planets for their mineral wealth. Behind it, the smaller vessels moved into attack formation, standard procedure for dealing with any native interference. "They're scanning us," announced Lieutenant Sarah Martinez from her station. "Using basic electromagnetic suites, our quantum camouflage is holding perfectly. As far as they're concerned, we're running on nuclear fission and prayer." Emily straightened her uniform, though it would soon be unnecessary. "Open a channel, standard radio frequencies. Let's play our part." The ship's communication system crackled with intentionally added static. "Unknown vessels, this is the U.S. Hartford, a research vessel of the United States of America. Earth, you are entering restricted solar space. Please identify yourselves." The response came quickly, translated through systems far more sophisticated than the aliens could imagine. "Primitive vessel, clear the operating zone or be destroyed. This system is now under the authority of the Andromeda Mining Corporation." "Sir," Jack reported with barely contained amusement, "they're charging weapons. Low-yield plasma cannons, the kind they use for asteroid clearing." "Please," Emily broadcast again, adding a slight tremor to her voice. "We are a peaceful research mission. We have families aboard." The first plasma bolt struck the Hartford's shields, carefully tuned to create a spectacular light show while absorbing the energy harmlessly. Emily counted silently. 3, 2, 1. "All hands," she announced calmly as more plasma fire engulfed their ship. "Initiate Liberty Protocol." Beneath the false hull of the Hartford, quantum computers spooled up. Hidden weapons platforms across the Kuiper Belt awakened from their decades-long slumber. And in the ship's data core, a signal began to propagate through subspace channels that the mining fleet couldn't even detect. "They're moving in for the kill shot," Jack reported professionally, charging their main excavation beam. Emily watched the massive mining laser power up, designed to slice dwarf planets in half. "Send the final transmission. Let's give them exactly what they expect." Sarah activated the radio. "Mayday. Mayday. This is U.S. Hartford. We are under attack. Please, somebody help." She cut the signal off mid-sentence. The mining laser fired, a beam of energy that could vaporize a small moon. The Hartford appeared to explode spectacularly, fragments of hulls spinning away into space. The mining fleet's crews celebrated, their communications filled with jokes about primitive human engineering. None of them noticed that the debris contained quantum beacons, marking each ship for what was coming next. None of them detected the subtle shift in subspace as hidden defense platforms locked onto their positions, and none of them realized that the Hartford hadn't been destroyed at all. It had simply shifted into quantum space, where human ships had traveled undetected for centuries. In the quantum realm, Emily watched the mining fleet through sensors that could pierce normal space. Signal transmitted to Strategic Command. All beacons are in place. She turned to her crew, who were already removing their unnecessary environmental suits. Phase 2 complete. Shall we give them a few minutes to enjoy their victory before we show them what humanity can really do? Jack grinned as he pulled up the tactical display, showing hundreds of quantum signatures converging on their position. The Dreadnought fleet is already on its way. I almost feel sorry for them. Don't, Emily replied, watching the mining fleet begin their approach to Pluto. They made their choice when they fired on what they thought was a civilian vessel. Now they get to learn why humanity has been playing primitive for all these years. She settled into her real command chair as the quantum drive hummed to life. And trust me, it's going to be one hell of a lesson. Colonel Michael Hayes stood in the Pentagon's Quantum Command Center, 300 meters beneath the public facility that foreign diplomats were allowed to tour. His weathered fingers traced patterns across the holographic display as he watched the mining fleet celebrate their victory over the Hartford. Tactical analysis complete, sir. Lieutenant Commander Rebecca Foster reported from her station. Their shields are operating at minimum power. They still think they're alone out there. Time to change that perception. Hayes nodded to his communications officer. Execute Phase 3. Let's introduce them to some real human engineering. Across the Kuiper Belt, quantum fields shimmed as hidden defense platforms dropped their century-long camouflage. Each platform, disguised as nothing more than a common asteroid, housed weapon systems that could reduce capital ships to atomic particles. All platforms reporting ready, Rebecca announced. Targeting solutions locked. Awaiting your command. Hayes allowed himself a small smile. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, we're making a point, not starting a war. Disable their engines and weapons, but I want every single one of those aliens alive to tell this story. The command center hummed with activity as targeting computers calculated firing solutions that would thread particle beams through the gaps in the mining ship's armor, striking precise components while leaving crew sections untouched. Signal from the Hartfords, sir, the comm officer reported. Lieutenant Blackwood is in position for the reveal. Hayes nodded. Send the message. Let's see how they handle a diplomatic approach before we demonstrate our capabilities. In normal space, the mining fleet's commanders were reviewing plans to begin stripping Pluto when their communications systems activated without their input. A message appeared on every screen, written in perfect Andromedan script. Attention Andromeda Mining Corporation vessels. You have violated sovereign Terran space and attacked a civilian research vessel. You have 30 seconds to power down your ships and prepare for boarding, or we will be forced to demonstrate humanity's response to acts of aggression. Laughter erupted across the mining fleet's command channels. The flagship's commander, Supreme Executor Vexilon, actually broadcast his response to his entire fleet. It seems some of the primitives survived. Show them what we do to species who don't know their place. Hayes watched as the mining ships charged their weapons, preparing to scan for any hidden human vessels. Time's up. Lieutenant Blackwood, you may proceed with the demonstration. The Hartford materialized less than a kilometer from the mining flagship, its false hull falling away to reveal gleaming quantum-forged armor. Before the alien crews could process what they were seeing, every defense platform in the Kuiper Belt fired simultaneously. Precisely targeted particle beams sliced through space, passing through the mining ship's shields as if they didn't exist. Engine cores went dark. Weapon systems exploded in showers of sparks. Communication arrays melted into slag. In less than 5 seconds, the entire fleet hung powerless in space. Direct hit on all targets, Rebecca reported with professional calm. All ships disabled. No casualties. Their life support systems are operating on emergency power. Hayes opened a channel to the stricken fleet. This was your warning shot. The next demonstration will be considerably less gentle. You have 1 hour to prepare a full report to your corporate headquarters explaining why your illegal mining operation has failed. The quantum sensors picked up panic spreading through the alien crews as they realized their most advanced shields had failed to stop weapons they couldn't even detect. On the flagship's bridge, Supreme Executor Vexilon stared in horror at readings that showed energy signatures unlike anything recorded in 3 galaxies. "Colonel," Rebecca called out, "we're picking up quantum transmission attempts from the flagship. They're trying to alert the Council." "Let them try," Hayes replied, watching the Hartford take up position above the Disable fleet. "Their quantum technology is centuries behind ours. By the time any message reaches the Council, we'll be ready for Phase 4. He turned to his staff. "Send word to Admiral Walker. Tell him Operation Daybreak is proceeding exactly as planned." In the depths of space, more human ships were dropping their camouflage, revealing a fleet that had hidden in plain sight for generations. The time for playing primitive was over. Now 3 galaxies would learn exactly what humanity had become while they weren't watching. Captain Jessica Roberts stood on the bridge of the TDF Hyperion, her hand resting on the quantum-forged command rail as she watched the final preparations for humanity's greatest reveal. The massive Dreadnought, hidden for decades in dimensional space, hummed with power that could reshape planets. "All fleet elements reporting ready, Captain," Commander David Chen announced from his tactical station. "The Andromeda Mining Corporation's distress signal has reached their home office. Council ships are already moving to investigate." Jessica nodded, her blue eyes reflecting the holographic display showing hundreds of human vessels preparing to decloak. "Status of the Hartford. Lieutenant Blackwood has the mining fleet secured," Chen replied. "Their crews are quite cooperative after our demonstration." "I imagine so." Jessica allowed herself a small smile. "Begin Operation Daybreak. Let's show 3 galaxies what humanity has been doing while they weren't watching." Across the solar system, space itself seemed to ripple. Massive structures began emerging from quantum space, orbital shipyards that dwarfed small moons, defense platforms that could halt entire invasion fleets, and a crown jewel of human engineering, the Terran Defense Force's Dreadnought fleet. The Hyperion led the revelation, its 30-kilometer length materializing above Earth's North Pole. Its hull, crafted from materials that alien science had yet to discover, gleamed with internal light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Weapon systems that could tear apart space itself tracked the approaching Council vessels with casual precision. "Council ships emerging from FTL at the system's edge," Chen reported. "Reading 76 vessels. Their sensors are having difficulty processing what they're seeing." "Open a channel to all frequencies," Jessica ordered. "Let's make our introduction properly." The communications array activated, broadcasting in every known language across 3 galaxies. "Attention all vessels. This is Captain Jessica Roberts of the Terran Defense Force Dreadnought Hyperion. As of this moment, Earth is dropping its protective camouflage. We appreciate your cooperation in maintaining our classified status for the past 2 centuries." She paused, letting the implications sink in. Around the Hyperion, more dreadnoughts emerged: the Excalibur, the Sovereign, the Nemesis. Each ship represented technological advancement that the Council had deemed impossible. "To the Trilateral Council," Jessica continued, "we have received your classification of Earth as a Class D primitive species. We respectfully disagree. Allow us to demonstrate our actual capabilities." At her signal, the Hyperion's quantum drive engaged. The massive ship simply vanished, reappearing instantly behind the Council fleet. Before their sensors could even register the movement, 3 more dreadnoughts had taken position around them, creating a perfect containment formation. "Your vessels are now within our defense grid," Jessica announced calmly. "To demonstrate our good faith, we're transmitting technical data on zero-point energy, quantum displacement drives, and gravitational manipulation. These are, of course, our publicly available technologies. We look forward to sharing our more advanced developments during diplomatic negotiations." The Council ship's communications erupted with chaos. Sensor officers reported impossible energy readings. Tactical analysts watched in horror as their most advanced scanning systems failed to penetrate even the outer layer of the human vessel's defenses. "Captain," Chen called out, amusement in his voice, The Council's supreme leader is requesting emergency communication. Put them through. Jessica straightened her uniform as the hologram materialized. Supreme Leader, welcome to Earth space. I believe it's time to discuss a reclassification of our species. The alien leader, their crystalline form trembling slightly, managed to respond. How long have you been capable of this? Jessica's smile widened just a fraction. Would you like the official answer, or shall I show you the quantum recordings of every closed council session for the past 100 years? We found your discussions about primitive humanity quite enlightening. As the council fleet hung motionless among the revealed human armada, Jessica couldn't help but think of all the generations who had maintained this deception. Now, finally, humanity could step into the light, not as the primitives they had pretended to be, but as the advanced civilization they had become, while 3 galaxies looked down on them in dismissive pity. Now then, she said, shall we begin the real negotiations? General Alexander Pierce stood before the Trilateral Council's emergency session, his dress uniform gleaming under the crystalline chamber's lights. The same chamber where, just days ago, these beings had dismissed humanity as primitives. Now they sat in stunned silence as he prepared to explain just how thoroughly they'd been deceived. The year was 2089. Pierce began, activating a holographic display that made the aliens' technology look primitive by comparison. Dr. Elizabeth Morgan discovered quantum displacement while working on what appeared to be a simple fusion project. Within 24 hours, we detected 3 separate alien surveillance attempts trying to access her research. A hologram showed a younger Dr. Morgan, seemingly celebrating a failed experiment. Behind the scenes, quantum computers were already processing the implications of her real discovery. That was when we made our choice, Pierce continued. We saw how the advanced species treated those they considered primitive. The mining operations, the uplifting programs that created dependent client states, the subtle manipulations of developing civilizations. Humanity chose a different path. The display shifted to show the first human quantum drive test, conducted in perfect secrecy beneath the Antarctic ice. The assembled council members shifted uncomfortably as they recognized technology centuries ahead of what they'd believed possible. We created the Global Science Initiative, supposedly a civilian research organization. In reality, it was the cover for the largest military and scientific undertaking in human history. Every failed experiment was a success, carefully hidden. Every primitive spacecraft we launched carried quantum sensors that mapped your territories. Pierce gestured, and the hologram displayed the vast underground facilities beneath Earth's surface. While you watched our surface industries burn fossil fuels, we built antimatter reactors in underground chambers. While you monitored our crude radio transmissions, we developed quantum communications that your sensors couldn't detect. We turned our greatest weakness, being underestimated, into our greatest strength. A counselor from Andromeda rose, their crystalline form shimmering with agitation. Impossible. Our surveillance networks would have detected. Would they? Pierce smiled, typing a command into his neural interface. Above the chamber, a hidden human quantum satellite decloaked for precisely 1 second before vanishing again. The council's sensors screamed with readings they couldn't interpret. That satellite has been there since your chamber was built. We have similar installations across all 3 galaxies. Every time you expanded your territories, we were already there, watching, learning, and preparing. The hologram showed the development of the human fleet, vessels that could traverse galaxies in days instead of weeks, weapons that could extinguish suns but were precise enough to disable a single component in an enemy ship. The fossil fuel economy, a carefully maintained facade. Those primitive spacecraft, each one carried technology that could outperform your best ships. The International Space Station, a quantum relay hub monitoring every diplomatic channel in 3 galaxies. Pierce's expression hardened. We watched you classify countless species as primitive. We saw what happened to those who revealed their advancements too soon. So we waited, we built, and we protected others from the shadows. The final hologram showed the true extent of human territory: hidden colonies, cloaked outposts, and quantum shipyards scattered across 3 galaxies. The council chamber erupted in shocked whispers as they realized the scope of humanity's deception. "Now you understand why we revealed ourselves today," Pierce concluded. "Not because we had to, but because we chose to." The Andromeda Mining Corporation's attempt to strip mine Pluto simply provided a convenient opportunity. He turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and those primitive nuclear weapons you've been so concerned about. They were never nuclear. Each one houses a quantum field generator capable of reshaping spacetime. We just never felt the need to correct your assumption." As Pierce walked out of the chamber, leaving the council to grapple with their new reality, he activated his neural link to Earth command. Phase 5 complete. They understand now. Shall we proceed with the revelation about their protected species program? The response came back instantly. "Proceed, General." It's time they learned what true guardianship of developing civilizations looks like. Admiral Marcus Thompson stood in the Council's secure deliberation chamber, a room that hadn't seen a non-council member in 3 centuries. The fact that he was here at all sent a clear message. The old rules no longer applied. "Impossible." High Counselor Zex Thrax's tendrils writhed in agitation. "You expect us to believe humans prevented the Rigelian incursion without anyone noticing?" Thompson gestured, and his neural interface projected a crystalline clear hologram of events from 50 years ago. The council members watched as cloaked human vessels intercepted a Rigelian war fleet, attempting to establish a foothold in Earth's solar system. "Case 57 of our intervention record," Thompson stated calmly. "Your own ships were 3 days away when the Rigelians arrived. Would you like to see what really happened to them?" The hologram showed human quantum ships systematically disabling the Rigelian fleet without firing a shot, using technology that made the Council's most advanced weapons look like children's toys. The disabled ships were then carefully redirected through a series of quantum jumps that convinced them they'd encountered a natural space anomaly. "We have similar records of 56 other interventions," Thompson continued, "including 3 attempts by your own observation fleets to establish deep cover monitoring stations on Earth." Representative Yelax chittered nervously. "Our stealth technology is undetectable." "Was undetectable," Thompson corrected, bringing up another hologram. "This is footage from your last attempt, 6 months ago. Notice how your ships never realized they were being herded away from Earth by our defense grid." The council chamber erupted in argument. Some members called for immediate military action against Earth. Others demanded diplomatic concessions. A few simply sat in stunned silence, realizing the implications of a civilization that had hidden such power for so long. "The Preservation Accords clearly state," Zex Thrax began. "Let's discuss the Preservation Accords," Thompson interrupted, his voice carrying an edge of steel. "Specifically, the classified sections dealing with resource acquisition from primitive worlds." The chamber fell silent. Thompson activated another hologram, this one showing a council session from decades ago, a session that was supposed to be completely secret. "We've recorded every closed-door meeting for the past century," he revealed. "Your discussions about Earth's valuable resources were particularly interesting, as were your debates about whether to classify us as primitive, specifically to prevent us from claiming colonial rights in our own solar system. These recordings are inadmissible." Merrick's crystalline form flashed with anger. "This chamber is quantum shielded." Thompson actually smiled. "By shielding technology you purchased from the Centaurians, who, by the way, reverse-engineered it from a human design we deliberately leaked through shell corporations 50 years ago." He began walking around the chamber, his neural interface highlighting each council member's private reaction. "Your most secure quantum encryption, based on principles we discarded as obsolete a century ago. Those unhackable diplomatic channels. We designed the backdoors before you even built them. Why reveal this now?" A younger council member asked, their bioluminescence pulsing with curiosity rather than fear. Because humanity is tired of watching you exploit developing civilizations under the guise of protection. Thompson's expression hardened. We've spent generations building up our strength, not just to protect ourselves, but to ensure that no other species has to face the choice between subjugation and deception. He gestured one final time, and the chamber's quantum shields, the Council's last symbol of privacy and power, simply winked out of existence. Your classification system needs reform, Thompson declared. Your methods of handling developing civilizations need oversight, and humanity is here to ensure those changes happen. The council members looked at each other in growing realization. This wasn't just a revelation of human power. It was the end of their unquestioned authority over 3 galaxies. Now, Thompson said, shall we begin discussing the terms of humanity's full membership in a reformed council? Or would you prefer another demonstration of why classification by appearance is a dangerous mistake? Commander Rachel Sullivan watched from the bridge of the TDF Vindication as the Dreadnought battle group approached Earth's solar system. The alien fleet had been dispatched by hardline council members who refused to accept humanity's revelation, determined to put the primitives in their place. Dreadnought fleet holding position at the heliopause. Lieutenant James Wilson reported from Tactical. 37 capital ships, including their newest Dreadnought class. Their charging weapon systems. Rachel nodded, her expression calm. Open a channel. Channel open. Communications Officer Sarah Martinez confirmed. Dreadnought Fleet, this is Commander Sullivan of the TDF Vindication. You are entering protected space. Stand down and withdraw. The response came quickly, filled with the trademark arrogance that had made the Dreadnoughts infamous across 3 galaxies. Primitive vessel, your deception ends today. Surrender your systems and submit to council authority, or be destroyed. Rachel sighed, sharing a knowing look with her bridge crew. Very well. Lieutenant Wilson, execute containment protocol. No casualties. The Vindication's quantum drive hummed to life, its advanced systems making the ship's massive energy signature vanish completely. To the Dreadnought sensors, it would appear as if the human vessel had simply ceased to exist. Position us directly above their flagship, Rachel ordered. Let's show them what actual advanced technology looks like. The Vindication reappeared instantaneously, its 30-kilometer length dwarfing the Dreadnought flagship. Before the alien fleet could react, quantum fields emanated from the human vessel, precisely targeting key systems throughout the enemy formation. Gravitational manipulation fields engage, Wilson reported professionally. Their weapons are offline. Engine cores contained. They're completely immobilized. Rachel activated the ship-wide broadcast. Attention Dreadnought Fleet. Perhaps a demonstration is in order. Please observe your flagship's primary reactor. With surgical precision, the Vindication's quantum systems reached into the alien vessel, temporarily deactivating their supposedly impenetrable shields. A focused gravitational pulse removed a single power coupling, no larger than a human hand, from the reactor assembly. The component I just removed, Rachel explained to the now silent Dreadnought commanders, is currently suspended in a quantum stasis field 1 meter from its original position. Your entire fleet has been immobilized by technology you can't even detect, let alone counter. Would you like to rethink your position on human capabilities? Through the quantum sensors, she watched panic spread through the alien fleet as they realized their most advanced systems had been bypassed as easily as tissue paper. The Dreadnought Supreme Commander, a being known for his ruthlessness, actually trembled as he opened a channel. How? How is this possible? Our shields were designed using principles we discarded centuries ago. Rachel completed his thought. While you were watching our primitive space program, we were building ships that could manipulate the fabric of space-time itself. She gestured to Wilson, who activated a secondary containment field. The Dreadnought crews watched in horror as their ships were systematically locked down by forces they couldn't comprehend. Ambassador Harrison sends his regards, Rachel continued. He's currently meeting with the Council to discuss humanity's terms. Would you like me to transmit the recording of your failed attack, or would you prefer to explain it yourself? The Dreadnought commander's response came quickly. We withdraw our objection to human ascension. Rachel allowed herself a small smile. Excellent choice. We'll release control of your ships once you've cleared the solar system. Oh, and one more thing. She paused for effect. Those colonies you've been planning in the Carina sector, the ones you thought were secret, we've been watching those preparations for decades. I suggest reconsidering that expansion. As the Dreadnought fleet retreated, thoroughly humbled, Rachel opened a channel to Earth Command. Phase 7 complete. The hardliners have been convinced. Should we proceed with the revelation about the hidden colonies? The response came back instantly. Proceed, Commander. It's time for the final phase. Let's show them what humanity has really been building out there in the dark. Ambassador David Harrison stood before the Reformed Council chamber, the holographic displays showing something that made even the most hardened council members pause in wonder. Hundreds of developing civilizations, carefully protected and nurtured by humanity's hidden guardians. This, Harrison gestured to a small world where a species was just discovering nuclear fusion, is what protection of developing civilizations actually looks like. The hologram showed a cloaked human vessel quietly neutralizing a solar flare that would have devastated the planet's atmosphere. For generations, he continued, while you classified us as primitive, we were out there, protecting others from the same exploitation you planned for Earth. The hologram shifted to another world, where a civilization had just achieved faster-than-light travel. Hidden in orbit, human ships ensured their first steps into the galaxy wouldn't be met with predatory mining corporations or forced diplomatic agreements. Impossible, High Counselor Zixthrax whispered. The resources required. The coordination. Harrison smiled. Did you never wonder why so many developing worlds seem to make breakthrough discoveries in precisely the right sequence? Why devastating natural disasters would mysteriously miss promising civilizations? The display showed human quantum ships redirecting asteroids, stabilizing planetary cores, and subtly guiding young species away from self-destruction. Each intervention was performed with such precision that the developing civilizations never knew they were being protected. Your classification system, Harrison continued, was based on the premise that advanced civilizations had the right to guide and exploit developing ones. We created an alternative: protection without interference, guidance without subjugation. He brought up another display, showing the true extent of human influence. Hidden colonies throughout 3 galaxies served not as military outposts, but as guardian stations, monitoring and protecting thousands of emerging civilizations. The Krellian civilization you discovered last year. We've been protecting them for 3 centuries. That breakthrough in renewable energy they shared, originally developed in human laboratories, carefully introduced through their own research channels. The council chamber erupted in murmurs as members began to understand the full scope of human operations. Their entire system of galactic order had been quietly supplemented by a shadow network of human guardians. We're not here to replace the council, Harrison assured them. We're here to reform it, to create a genuine coalition of advanced species dedicated to protecting and nurturing developing civilizations. He gestured, and the chamber's quantum field expanded, revealing representatives from dozens of civilizations that had been hidden under human protection. Species that the Council had classified as primitive, but had actually achieved remarkable advancement under humanity's quiet guidance. Welcome, Harrison announced, to the first truly united gathering of galactic civilizations, not divided by arbitrary classifications, but united in our commitment to protect and nurture those following in our footsteps. The Chamber's advanced members watched in amazement as supposedly primitive species demonstrated technologies that rivaled their own, all developed naturally, with only subtle protection from human guardians. The age of exploitation is over, Harrison declared. The time of genuine cooperation begins today. Humanity steps into the light not as conquerors, not as revolutionaries, but as guardians. We offer our knowledge, our protection, and our commitment to ensuring every species has the chance to develop without interference or exploitation. As the new council members took their places, Harrison activated one final hologram. It showed Earth, seemingly primitive on the surface, but now revealed as the heart of a vast network of protection and advancement that spanned 3 galaxies. "We chose to appear primitive," he concluded, "because we understood that true power lies not in domination, but in protection. Not in exploitation, but in nurture. The question now is simple: will you join us in this mission?" The chamber, once a symbol of hierarchical power, transformed into something new. A genuine forum of equals, united in the commitment to protect and guide the next generation of spacefaring civilizations. In orbit above Earth, the Terran Defense Fleet maintained its vigilant watch, no longer hidden, but standing as a visible reminder that humanity's greatest strength had never been in its weapons or technology, but in its choice to use that power to protect rather than dominate.